Hello, everybody. It's Mike History 2. Once again, I took a super long break, but I'm back. And we're going to continue our series on the top 10 worst people in history. So, number 6, we have Anne Lushan. Now, most of you probably never heard of Anne Lushan. Anne Lushan was born in 703 to Ashida and her mysterious husband. His original name might have been Alwoshan or Galwoshan. His father died early, and his mother married a Turkic general, An Yan Yan. Anne Lushan therefore took the name of Anne. Early in the reign of Emperor Xuanzong of Tang, the emperor of China between 713 and 741, there was a disturbance among the Gokturk people that An Yan Yan belonged to. Man, I love saying that. And Anne Lushan fled to China with An Yan Yan and An Yan Yan's nephew, An Xishan. He later settled around Chaoyang, Liaoning. An Lushan knew 6 non-Mandarin languages, and after he grew older served as an interpreter in one of the military markets. Serving with him was Shi Sugan, who was one day older than he was. In 732, when the general Chang Shugui was governing around Beijing, An was discovered to have stolen sheep. Chang was set to execute him. Okay, that escalated quickly, but when An begged for mercy and impressed by his plea, Chang released him and had him serve as a police officer? Okay, so he's a criminal and he gets promoted to a police officer. Anyways, along with Shi, and both of them were said to be capable at catching criminals. That's why. Later, Chang promoted him to be military officer. Eventually, he drew Chang's favor. Chang took him and treated him like a son. Okay, so after stealing his sheep, now he's his son. Okay. At a time that was not recorded in history, he married Kang as his first wife. She bore him at least one son, and Qingsu, who, however, was not his oldest son. By 736, An Lushan was a general and was serving under Chang Shugui as an officer based in modern Chaoyang. In 736, after An disobeyed Chang's orders, well, imagine my shock. I mean, he was stealing a sheep only a few years ago and made an overly aggressive attack against the Khitan and the Shi. He was defeated. Now, according to army regulations, he was going to be executed again. This is just one extreme to the other. So he was sent to the capital Chang'an, and wow, there are a lot of Ans in this thing, and recommended execution, although he's hoping that Emperor Xuanzong would pardon An. The Chancellor, Chang Chuling, this sounds so Chinese, arguing that An's death would be necessary to preserve military discipline, and further believing that An had the appearance of a rebel, I mean he kind of was, advocated for his death. But Emperor Xuanzong believed that An was able, and he didn't want to execute him. And therefore, once again, he was spared, but he was stripped of his titles and was forced to return to serve under Cheng. Now, in 741, when the deputy chief, imperial censor, Chang Li, man, they're all called Chang here. I mean, it's not even a stereotype. Chang Li Zan was sent to survey the Hebei province and visit the army there. He sucked up to Chang so much they even bribed Chang's servants. When Chang returned to Chang'an, well, now that's weird. So there's Chang and An and Chang'an. So anyways, in Chang'an, Chang praised An. Try saying that 10 times. So Emperor Xuanzong promoted An to be the commandant at Ying Prefecture, the commander of an army to defend against the Khitan, the Shi, Balhae, and the He Shui Mohe. In 742, Xuanzong further promoted An's army to be a military circuit, making An its military government. In 743, An visited Chang'an to pay homage to Emperor Xuanzong. Now the emperor treated him well and allowed him to visit the palace at all times. He began to inject himself into court politics. He often pleased Emperor Xuanzong by offering him tributes of rare items, and over time the emperor grew more and more fond of him, despite the fact that he was always rebelling in some way. In 744, with further praises from the powerful chancellor Li Linfu and Pei Quan, An was made the military governor of an army circuit headquartered in modern Beijing. Wanting to show his military abilities, he often pillaged the Khitan and the Shi. His actions led to 2 princesses of the royal clan who were married to Khitan and Shi leaders being executed in retaliation, and both groups rebelled in 745, although An defeated them. Now it was said that An was attempting to increase his own strength and was planning a rebellion, which is hardly surprising. In 747, he claimed to be building Fort Xiongwu and asked fellow military governor Wang Chongxi to contribute troops, hoping to hold on to the troops that Wang would send and not return them. Wang instead led the troops himself to Shuangwu in advance of the rendezvous date, and after participating in the building project, returned with the soldiers, and submitted reports to Emperor Xuanzong that he believed that An was planning treason. Li Linfu, who was at this point apprehensive of Wang as a potential rival, used this as one of the reasons to get rid of Wang, and Wang was later in 747 removed from his post. Now, also in that year, An Lushan was given the honorary title as Chief Deputy Imperial Censor, and Duan now described as his wife, although Kang was still alive. Okay. In 748, Emperor Xuanzong awarded An Lushan an iron certificate promising that he would not be executed except for treason, and in 750 he was made An Prince of Dongping, setting a precedent for generals who weren't of the imperial Li dynasty to be created princes. By this point, a friendship had developed between An Lushan and the emperor, which is quite obvious. When An went to Chang'an later that year to pay homage to Emperor Xuanzong, he presented him with 8,000 she captives. In 751, Xuanzong had a magnificent mansion built for An in Chang'an, sparing no expenses. On An's birthday, February 20th, 751, Emperor Xuanzong and consort Yang awarded him with clothes, treasure, and food. Thereafter, whenever An visited the capital, he was allowed free admittance to the palace. There were rumors that he and consort Yang had an affair, but Emperor Xuanzong just said they were rumors. At An's request, Emperor Xuanzong also gave him the governorship of the Hedong Army Circuit, headquartered in modern Taiyuan, and no, not that Taiyuan, Shanxi. Two of his sons, An Qingzong and An Qingshu, were given ministerial-level positions, and An Qingsong was given an imperial clan member's daughter, the Lady Rongyi, in marriage. An was arrogant, though, towards other officials. It was also said by this point that An began to be apprehensive of what would happen once Emperor Xuanzong died, and he remembered how he had refused to bow to his son Suzong, and he began to plan an eventual rebellion, which is further encouraged by his observation that the heart of China had no defenses. He selected some 8,000 soldiers among the surrendered Khitan, Xi, and Tongluo tribesmen, organizing them into his own army, even though he'd killed so many of them. Anyways, this story's weird. Late in 751, An launched a major attack against the Khitan, advancing quickly to the heart of the Khitan territory, but stopped by rains, he was defeated by them. An himself was almost killed, and after retreating, blamed the defeat on his generals Ge Jie and Yu Chengxian, executing them. Wow. He subsequently had Shi defend against the Khitan counterattack, and Shi was able to repel the Khitan. In 752, he wanted to launch a major counterattack against, you guessed it, the Khitan, requesting that General Li Xiangzong accompany him. Li Xiangzong was afraid of An, and An ordered Li to attack the Khitan. But Li rebelled, and this ended An's campaign. Later that year, when Emperor Xuanzong seen that both An Lushan and An Xishan, who by this point was the military governor of the Shuofang Army Circuit, headquartered in modern Yinchuan Ningxia, had poor relations with Ge Shuhan, the military governor of Hitsi, headquartered in modern-day Wuwei, Kansu and Longxi, headquartered in modern Haidong Prefecture, and the Qinghai circuits, and wanted to improve relations between these three key border troop commanders. He summoned all three to the capital and had the powerful eunuch Gao Lishi host a feast for the three of them, trying to get them to resolve their problems. At the conference, however, Geshu and An Lushan got into a fight, which only stopped after Gao looked at Geshu, stopping him from responding to An Lushan's insults. In 753, with Li Linfu's death and replacement by Yang Guozong intended to dishonor Li Linfu and had An Lushan reveal his accusations that Li Linfu was involved in Li Xiangzong's rebellion. An agreed, and subsequently, with further encouragement from Li Linfu's son-in-law Yang Qisuan, Li Linfu was dishonored and his family members were exiled. Also in 753, Li Qiangzong's troops were defeated by the Huge, and they surrendered to An, further enhancing his strength. Despite their cooperation posthumously accusing Li Linfu, a rivalry soon developed between An and Yang Guozong. Man, this guy has enemies with everyone. Anyways, as An did not fear Yang Guozong the way he feared Li Linfu, Yang Guozong made repeated accusations against An to Emperor Xuanzong that he was plotting a rebellion, but accusations were dismissed by Emperor Xuanzong. Yang Guozong instead entered into an alliance with Gishu against An. In spring 754, Yang asserted to the emperor that An was set on rebelling, an accusation that Yang, had made many times before. Yang predicted that if Emperor Xuanzong summoned An to Chang'an, then he surely wouldn't come. However, when Emperor Xuanzong tested Yang's hypothesis by calling An, he immediately showed up in Chang'an and claimed that Yang was making false accusations. Thereafter, Emperor Xuanzong refused to believe any suggestions that An was plotting a rebellion. The emperor even considered promoting An to be chancellor, but the promotion never happened. An subsequently returned to Fanyang. At An's request, Emperor Xuanzong allowed him to award his soldiers with high ranks without first receiving imperial approval. Later in 754, An defeated Shi forces, capturing their chieftain Li Riwei. Meanwhile, Yang Guozong viewed the official Wei Zi as a threat and accused Wei of corruption. Yang Guozong later accused Wei of bribing An's friend Ji Wen, and Wei and Ji were both demoted. An subsequently submitted a petition on their behalf, claiming that accusations from Yang Guozong were false, but Emperor Xuanzong took no actions against either An or Yang Guozong. In the spring of 755, matters were really beginning to come to a head, when An Lushan submitted a petition to have 32 non-Han generals under him replace Han generals. This was accepted by Emperor Xuanzong, despite opposition from Yang Guozong and his fellow chancellor Wei Jiansu, who took An's use of non-Han generals as a sign of an impending rebellion. Yang and Wei then suggested that An be promoted to chancellor, in that his 3 commands be divided between his 3 deputies. Emperor Xuanzong initially agreed, but after the edict was drafted, Xuanzong stopped it and instead sent the eunuch Fu Xiulun to send fresh fruits to An and to spy on him, upon which An bribed him into submitting a favorable report. Yang, however, continued in his reports against An. Yang then attacked some of An's staff and associates, including having the mayor of Qingzhou arrest An's friend Li Chao and others, and executing them secretly. An Qingzong, who was then at Chang'an, reported Yang's attack to An Lushan, causing considerable concern to An Lushan, who thereafter refused to attend the funeral of an imperial prince in summer 755 and did not offer to send a large number of horses to Chang'an that autumn, which aroused the suspicions of Emperor Xuanzong. Allegations of An's bribe to Fu also reached the emperor, who then had Fu executed and sent another eunuch, Feng Shenwei, to Fanyang to again summon An Lushan, who ignored the summons.